Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel of your favorite or soon-to-be favorite bookworm, Twink Supreme. If you love books and if you want to see this twink talk about them, I highly suggest looking for this button and fingering it. And while you're down there, you might as well look for the bell also, because if you click that, YouTube will magically notify you when I post. Sounds pretty sexcellent to me, right? Okay, so do you lovely people know what I like a lot? I love a good plot twist. A plot twist that it feels earned, that comes as a surprise, an actual surprise, and isn't something that you guess 30 pages in, lock every door, and something that doesn't cheat certain books that we're not going to be talking about on this channel, where things get pulled out of asses and come as a surprise, but like a really bad surprise that I did not want to be there for. Now, this video is going to be super unorganized because one, I didn't make a script beyond the list of books that I wrote down over here on this Google Doc. And two, because I didn't write a script, please forgive me in advance for not knowing any of the names of these characters, because unlike, you know, fantasy, long book fantasy series like the ones of Sarah J. Maas, or she's kind of the only one I read, to be honest. Normally thrillers don't have sequels and it's just like the one book, and so I don't have enough time to memorize their generic ass names because these thrillers take place in our world. And so please forgive me in advance if I am unable to name the character in a certain book and I say this book is about a girl, this book is about a woman, about a guy, about a dude, about yada yada yada, you know, right? Okay, so basically the books I'm going to be showing you lovely people today are books that had plot twists that personally shocked me as a person. This is what I sound like when I'm trying to meet word count on the essays I write. Anyway, obviously I will not be revealing spoilers in this video, because then this video would be downvoted by like everybody. And people who spoil plot twists for other people are bad people, so I'm just not gonna do that right now over here today as a person, right? Okay, what I am gonna do though is give you a list of books, tell you what they're about, and hope that you find joy in them. So the first book is a book that I actually have a full video on because I read it for my book club, and that book is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo, and I love this book so much. This is lady rage energy. This is women hitting back. This is a good for her book if I ever read one. A good for her story, rather, because this one is just adapted into a film now. Okay? Okay, please, we need this in the world. So basically this book follows a woman named Scarlett Clark, and she is a professor by day, serial killer by night, and she goes after men who are abusive and mistreat women. And then we follow this younger girl in that same university named Carly, who is young, she's naive, she's awkward, she has a hard time making friends, and she unfortunately has to witness what it's like to be a young woman in college, with all the creepy professors and the douchebags and all that stuff. What I love most about this book is that it is a serial killer novel through and through. Scarlett literally craves murdering people. She is somebody who has serial killer ideation, serial killer motivation. It is so lovely and dark and screwed up, and just seeing what drove her to become what she ended up becoming, and who she pushes back against, and how she does so, and just her inner monologue is just so good. And the plot twist, there is a plot twist, okay? There is a plot twist. And this is a twist that I have seen done before and that I have been able to predict in other books, but for some reason it was just so unexpected over here and I didn't see it coming at all. Gasps occurred, okay? And even if you guessed the twist early on, I think you would still be very happy with how it is done over here and how effective it is, and just so good, so good. Love this book so much. So the second book I want to talk about is a book that I literally just finished a couple of hours ago, just this afternoon, and that book is called Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica, and this book follows so many things. This is one of the most plot-heavy thrillers I have ever read. But just to give you a little bitty summary of what to expect going in. So this book follows this young girl named Delilah who goes missing, and years later, I believe 11 years later, she comes back from where she was, from where she went missing, and the truth surrounding these events unravel the lives of everybody in this small town. There are secrets, there's intrigue, and there is a pretty huge plot twist at the end, which I know people were not a fan of, but I personally was just like, oh, okay. And this isn't just one huge plot twist at the end. This is a thriller that takes place from, I believe, 3 points of view. Whether this book is good is something that it's up for debate, but this book is so much fun. It takes place from the point of view of several people, and it takes place in different periods of time, and reading this book is like solving a puzzle, just like reading the story connect itself as you read from the past and the present. It's just so good, and it's not just one plot twist. There are so many plot twists and reveals scattered throughout the story that I was just getting whiplashed, but liking it for some reason. Okay, and yes, there is like a big thing that happens at the end, but the journey getting there is super fun. Now, the next book I'm gonna recommend is one that I did not have fun with, and that I don't think anyone for that matter will have fun with, and that is Pen Pal by Dathan Arbach. This probably qualifies more as a horror book, given just how horrific what happens in this story is. So basically we follow this young boy, and the book starts off with him in kindergarten, I believe, and they have this project where they write letters to anonymous strangers, and they fly the letters off in helium balloons and hope it lands near somebody who will write back to them. And this is like a literacy project in school, so the person's gonna mail the letter back to school, and they'll probably have a correspondence, blah 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 blah. And this young boy, whose name I forgot clearly, gets a response to his letter that is very creepy, and the rest of the novel takes place over the years in his life as he recalls certain things in his childhood and how that shaped him as an adult. And it is one of the darkest, most disturbing, most you will be bummed out after reading this book, I promise you, things I have ever laid my eyes on. So fair warning to you, it is bleak, it is uncompromising, and it's not a good time, but the plot twist and the reveal as to what was actually happening the whole time was deeply upsetting, but pretty fantastic, I must admit. And yeah, this book will probably give you nightmares and have you staring into space wondering why there is so much awfulness in this world, and for what reason. So the next book I want to recommend is Near the Bone by Christina Henry. This book was a journey and a half. So we follow this young woman whose name I don't remember. I think her name is Maddie or something. Maddie or some shit like that. And she is young, and she lives with her husband in this secluded part of a snowy mountain, and they live a very independent life, meaning they hunt for their own food, yada yada yada, very traditional. The more we read about their dynamic, the more we realize something is clearly wrong. He is clearly physically abusive to her. The only book she's allowed to read is the Bible. Full-on Handmaid's Tale within their house. And one day, while they're out hunting, they find out that this cave is littered with bones that likely indicate that there is a cryptid in the woods. Now, a cryptid is like a Bigfoot, like a Sasquatch kind of monster, kind of thing like that. And this leads them to track the motherfucker down. That is all I'm going to say. There are twists. There is a huge twist. And by the end of the story, I didn't know what I believed to be true, and I loved every single second of it. It is very scary, very intense, and a good time. Pretty good time, I will say. So the next book I want to talk about is a book that I also read for my book club, and that is Every Last Fear by Alex Finley. So this book follows this guy whose name I don't remember, and his two parents and sister were murdered on this vacation that they had taken to Mexico. The only reason he was not on vacation with them was because he was studying in university and therefore did not go on vacation with them, obviously. So his only remaining family is his one older brother, who he is not on good terms with because this older brother was accused and subsequently jailed for the alleged murder of his girlfriend. That is all I'm gonna tell you, but let me just say this. This book has multiple points of view. And normally when a book has this, I normally don't like it because I like following one point of view. I like it in the first person. I like to be in the person's head. I like to watch them as we go through the entire story. I like to imagine myself as them sometimes, put myself in someone's shoes, really experience all the surprises with them. But over here, we had 6 points of view. We had the main guy, we had the dad, we had the mom, we had the sister, we had his older brother, and we had a detective, and we had transcripts from a documentary that was made about the brother's supposed murder. That's 7 points of view, and I was emotionally deeply invested in every single one of them. And I don't know how Alex Finley did this, but I was just so enraptured by this book. And with every single point of view, every single chapter ends with a cliffhanger, and it's so well plotted. As a thriller fan, I was just living as I read this book. And it's not just one twist at the end, although there is a twist at the end. It's a series of reveals and twists throughout the whole thing, with a cliffhanger at the end of every single chapter. This book is fucking amazing, and it's not the best book I read so far this year, but it's probably the best book I read so far that was released this year. It is incredible. So the next book I want to recommend is Confessions by Kanai Minato, and this is actually a translated work. This was translated from Japanese to English. It's set in Japan, and we follow a woman named Yuko, who is a grade school teacher who has reason to believe that a couple of her students are responsible for a certain crime. That is all I'm going to say, because this book is one of those thrillers that I think you should go in knowing as little as possible. Like, do not even read the Goodreads summary, because it opens up spoiling the most crucial thing, like on the first sentence for some reason. And I read this book back in March, and it has not left my head since then. And there are quite a lot of twists throughout the novel, but the big twists happen at the ending of the first chapter and at the very end of the last chapter. The first twist that happens at the beginning of the first chapter sets the stage for the unraveling that happens and the undoing that happens in all the lives of the characters that we learn about and read from in later chapters, and how everything comes apart. It's literally like, you know, when you drop the first domino and the rest of the dominoes topple. That is what the first chapter of this book is like. But it doesn't topple, you know, to the last domino. It topples onto a landmine, and the final chapter is explosive and just so fucking good. And when I finished reading this book, I slapped it with a 5-star review with a quickness, okay? Anyway, the next book I want to recommend is a book that had me gasping out loud audibly in a car and shocking the person driving and nearly getting me into an accident. And that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. When I say I love thriller books, this is the kind of book I'm talking about. So this book follows a woman named Alicia, and I remembered her name because she was alluded to in The Maidens, and that reference was the only good thing about that book. She is a painter, and her husband is this famous fashion photographer, and one night when her husband gets back from work, she shoots him in the face 5 times, as one does, and this gets her locked up in a psych ward. Now, our main character is a man named Theo, who is a criminal psychotherapist who gets on her case, and the reason this book is called The Silent Patient is because she refuses to speak at all. So this book is about Theo trying to understand why she did what she did, and oh my gosh, I was very happy with the twist at the end. I was very satisfied with how this book concluded. I live for thrillers like this one, and I sincerely hope you have the same experience that I did, because it was one of the highlights of my journey as a reader, getting to that twist, because I was just like, thank you, Alex, thank you very much for this. And it's because of this book that I will continue reading books from this author, despite how crushingly disappointed I was this year, okay? Okay. Lastly, we're gonna talk about a book that came out this year that did not disappoint me. In fact, the opposite. This book took me by surprise. This was a book that I did not think I was even gonna like, given the freaking premise. But by the end, I was like, okay, all right, I'm paying attention. Thank you for that. And this book is The Push by Ashley Audrain. Oh my gosh. In this book, we follow a woman named Blythe, and she is anticipating motherhood. Certain things in her past have happened which made her very paranoid about taking on motherhood, and she gives birth to this daughter named Violet, and we begin to literally suspect that she gave birth to the second coming of Satan himself, and that this is a Rosemary's Baby prequel that depicts the events after that movie. But the beauty of this is that we think that the child is a literal demon, but then we're also in the head of Blythe most of the time. We see what her childhood was like, we see how stressed she is, how paranoid she is, how she takes things out of context, how she doesn't necessarily see things as they are. We start to question her biases, our personal worries about potentially, you know, taking on parenthood and things like that. By the end, I was like, do I think this about this kid? Do I think Blythe is really actually going through this? But then, this book's plot twist doesn't come out in the third act. This book's plot twist is the very last sentence of the book, and it gave me goosebumps for days. That last line is the strongest conclusion to a book I have read all year, maybe competing with Confessions. So yeah, that's gonna do it. I sincerely hope you find something worthwhile in this list, and if you don't, I'm sorry. I am personally sorry. Yeah, I really hope you like this video. If you did, please like and comment and subscribe, share this video with your friends, and I will love you forever. I hope to see you all in future videos, but as always, take care. I lose myself